Hello and welcome to day 3 of Music and Mindfulness. I'm Ann Lovatt. Today's video will focus on the diaphragm and all the muscles that we use for respiration. The first section will be a little bit of anatomy and physiology. You'll see an animation that really shows how the lungs and diaphragm interact. In the second section, I'm going to ask a few questions of a professional trumpet player, Mike Lovatt. And I'm asking him about his association with the great opera singer Jessye Norman and about how he teaches breathing. In the third section, we'll do some diaphragmatic breathing. Now, to do this, you'll need a mat or a rug on the floor and something to support your head, maybe a yoga block or a couple of books. And you might want a cushion or a pillow under your knees. But please, if you don't feel comfortable getting up and down to the floor, you can do this on a sofa or a bed. After that, I'll let you really relax into the breathing that we will have started together, and I'll play you a piece of music that has a strong association for me with Jessye Norman. It's Morgen by Richard Strauss. It's a really beautiful song. I'm really lucky that Jessye's accompanist Mark Markham will be accompanying myself and Mike, and we play that to you at the end. So I hope you enjoy this. So I'm going to talk first of all about the muscles of respiration. The major one, of course, being the diaphragm. It's a thin sheet of muscle that sits just under the lungs in the shape of a dome. It serves the purpose of cutting the body in two, and it separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. Now, the diaphragm couldn't work alone, and it's assisted by many other muscles in the abdomen, in between the ribs, the intercostals, and even muscles right up to the neck and shoulders and back. It's a massive team effort. Diaphragmatic breathing enables us to really flood the body with oxygen. And learning this technique can enable you to halt the fight or flight adrenal response. So it's a fantastic tool to deal with stress. It's also the main support for the voice for singers, wind and brass instrumentalists. And also very valuable if you do public speaking and you want to just support your voice. So we're going to take a look at the lungs now, and you'll see an animation appear on your screen and gently unfold. Try to have a good look at exactly where the lungs lie within the chest cavity. It can be surprising to see just how high up the body the lungs reach, right up towards the base of the neck. You'll see clearly on this animation how the lungs expand on the in-breath and relax back down again on the exhale. Try bringing your own breath into harmony now with what you see. What's happening within the lungs is an exchange of gases. We take oxygen in through the windpipe or trachea. This branches out to become the bronchi, which in turn become the smaller bronchioles and then lead to tiny air sacs called the alveoli. These very efficiently take oxygen into the bloodstream. On the out-breath, the lungs expel the waste gas carbon dioxide. Diaphragmatic breathing is an excellent way to do this extremely efficiently. This next image that you see is of the diaphragm alone with the lungs taken away, so you can clearly see the movement of the diaphragm. So on the inhale, the diaphragm descends, contracting that large muscle which splits the thoracic or chest cavity from the abdominal cavity. And on the exhale, the diaphragm relaxes. So again, you can try and bring your breathing into harmony with what you see. So we have an inhale and then the exhale. Downwards of the diaphragm and then relaxing back up again. Now the diaphragm moves down in order to move aside some of the organs beneath the stomach, the liver, kidneys, intestines, all of that inhabits the abdominal cavity. And that movement also produces a negative pressure in the lungs and allows air to rush in. Now on this animation you can also see another diaphragm, which is right down in the pelvis where the sitting bones are. You see another red diaphragm in your picture. This is the pelvic floor or pelvic diaphragm, and it's important to understand that this also moves when you breathe. So you have the movement right from the neck and shoulder muscles, the ribs, the intercostal muscles between the ribs, the muscles around the back. Very important, the abdominal muscles come into play, and the diaphragm in the pelvis will also move in tandem with the diaphragm in the thoracic cavity, which supports your lungs. Thanks for joining me, Mike.
Pleasure.
Some people speak about mindfulness as being a flow state, almost like a feeling of floating. And I know you've worked extensively with the great opera singer Jessye Norman, and in her autobiography she talks about exactly this state. And she says that understanding the anatomy is incredibly important. And once she's singing, she has this fantastic feeling, which she describes as floating or flying, because the oxygen levels combined with the adrenaline are so perfectly tuned, if you like, that in the course of 2 or 3 hours she experiences what we can experience in 5 minutes, actually, where the body chemistry really changes. And I just wonder if you've experienced that amazing feeling of floating or flying when you're performing.
Well, if you just go to when you finish the performance, how many performances you do when you come off the stage and you're absolutely in another world. You're flying. You're on a high. You're on a high. Because the adrenaline's been going, like you said. And I think what happens is, I've been along to a performance and played in a situation where I'm completely lost in what I'm doing. It's like, a bomb could go off next to me and I wouldn't know what was going on, because you lose yourself in the music, especially working with somebody like Jessye Norman. I was almost as close to her as I am to you right now when we were performing. In fact, there was one piece which we used to play and she used to actually sit right next to me, because I did like a sort of cadenza kind of opening to this piece which we played. And I would get completely wrapped up and mesmerised by what she was doing, in the parts when I wasn't playing. And of course, when I had to come in and play myself, then I'd have to get back into my zone, which hopefully was where she was as well. So yeah, I can really see that whole thing of almost being in another world when we perform.
Jessye talks about singing as being a really natural process where the breathing is completely supported by all the muscles of respiration that we've already spoken about. And then she also talks about the absolute control of the breath, which is something we're practicing for this video, diaphragmatic breathing. Is that absolute control is something that you convey to your students?
Yeah, breathing is what trumpet playing is all about, really. Any wind instrument, we blow. And, a lot of people think with a brass instrument, like a trumpet, that we buzz lips, but we don't buzz the lips, we blow. And it's the control of that air, it's the speed of the air, it's how we take it in a relaxed way, because we need to have an open throat. So I try and teach people to breathe in slowly over a certain amount of counts, and also breathe in silently. We can all go like this, but actually it's better to breathe in like that, and you really feel everything, your lungs inflating, and you feel everything stretching. You feel you feel your chest, you feel your rib cage, you feel your back. All these things move, and of course the diaphragm moves. And when we exhale, we want it to be in some kind of force, but not really hard, not really like this. We just need it to be something which is supportive, because that's what's going to support the sound. Of course, when we sing or when we put an instrument in front of our hands, the natural way that we breathe, when we're born, everybody breathes fine, and over a period of time we learn how not to breathe. And then when we start playing a musical instrument, we think, oh, well, something's got to be different for this, but it hasn't. It's got to be natural. So there's that natural, and then the vibe, the intensity of the air and how we release it. That's the important bit. And, you know, when I was working with Jessye, I would see the way that she controlled how the air came out. And when she took a breath in, it did seem very natural. You know, it's like, and breathe out like that, you know. So it's got this vibe about it. And of course, that's what gives the sound. That's what helps to that's why she had such an amazing voice, because she knew exactly how to control that, you know, how to control it, absolutely. Yet, she was wrapped up in the performance.
And I think also it's useful for non-performers, just simply having to do some public speaking or just supporting your voice well,
yeah.
And oxygenating, as it's just so important for well-being.
If you're feeling stressed, I mean, you know, just sitting here, if we sat here, we didn't breathe properly and we're doing that kind of thing, well, we're going to get quite agitated and we're going to get quite stressed. So the thing to do is actually to just, you know, sit here, ground yourself, breathe in. And, you know, with my students, I use an arm, you know, breathe in and breathe out. And it's that which makes you really get drawn in to what's going on here, being mindful of what's going on here, and then play, sing, whatever you're doing, and be completely in that moment, in what you're doing there. And of course, if you practice this kind of breathing, then when you perform, you don't think about it, because it becomes the natural way of doing it, and that's the best way to sing, the best way to play.
We're really lucky, aren't we, that we've got Mark Markham playing for us later on.
Incredible piano player, yeah.
It's I think we'll certainly be channeling Jessye, and you're actually going to be playing the part that the voice...
I'm going to try and do that, yeah, although I don't think a trumpet could ever sound like that incredible instrument that was Jessye Norman. Wonderful, wonderful singer.
So now we're going to practice our diaphragmatic breathing. So it's very important that you have a mat and something to put your head on. Hopefully you'll have a really good understanding of the anatomy from the previous section of the video. So we need to lie flat on our backs, head supported. So just get yourself comfortable. Make sure your feet are flat on the floor and about a hip width apart, and just rest your hands on your abdomen. Just for a few moments, just allow gravity to do its thing. Let your back gently soften down into the floor. Take a moment to connect with your feet and just begin to breathe normally. I think it's helpful to close your eyes and just notice the evenness of your breath. We're going to start to just explore the muscles, starting with the sides of the body. So place your hands on the side of your body so you can really feel the rib cage, and just continue to breathe normally and be aware of that lovely opening and closing movement of the ribs as you breathe. So I just want you to really connect with your breath. And after a couple of breaths, move your hands to the top of your ribs. Again, just take a few breaths, noticing the movement. If you put one hand on your chest and one on your abdomen, continue to breathe. You'll notice that in this position, a lot of the muscles of the upper torso are inhibited, so we can feel really nicely what's going on below the diaphragm in the abdomen. Now we're going to just tuck our fingertips beneath the ribs, just very gently, continuing to breathe and feeling that movement. You should be able to feel the diaphragm itself. As you breathe in, the diaphragm contracts, expanding downwards, and then it softens on the exhale. Now placing both hands just very gently on the abdomen and allow your elbows to rest on the floor. Just think for a moment about your shoulders being soft, your pelvis dropping down into the floor, and your feet having really lovely contact with the floor. So we're going to begin to practice the diaphragmatic breathing. Ensure that your hands are relaxed on your abdomen, your elbows on the floor. And just take your attention for a moment to the rest of your body, ensuring your shoulders are soft and your back and pelvis feels nicely grounded, and your feet are flat on the floor, soft. We're going to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth for a few breaths. I'd like to imagine that you have a straw in your mouth, and on the exhale, try emptying the lungs completely. So we'll inhale through the nose and exhale, gently blowing an even breath right to the end of the breath, emptying the lungs completely. Do this in your own time. Now just have a rest, take a couple of normal breaths. Now we're going to move the hands slightly upwards so they're just under the diaphragm. And the next time we do the breath, do the same thing, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the straw. And we'll blow quite hard at the end of the breath to really push the very last bit of carbon dioxide out of the body. So a slightly more pushed exhale. So let's try that. We'll do 3 in a row in your own time. As you do this, you'll probably feel the abdominal muscles kicking in to assist your body to really push that last bit of breath out. You'll also feel the intercostal muscles which assist with the exhale. Now it's important when you begin this practice to take a few breaths rest in between. Now you may want to do this on a count, so possibly breathing in on 3 and out slightly longer, perhaps on 5 or 6. Again, always do the counts in your own time to suit your own lungs. Take rests after 3 or 4 breaths. So just be really aware of your body. Let's try a couple more. Okay, we're now going to add another dimension to the practice, and that's a mindful thought about your breathing. We're going to introduce the thought of a colour. So next time you breathe in, imagine you're breathing in a lovely cool colour, perhaps a blue. And the blue colour follows the breath right through the body. And on the exhale, we'll still do the pushed exhale. Imagine that colour is a warmer colour as it leaves the body. So we have this lovely circle of breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, with a very even push to the very bottom of the lungs, but with the added dimension of a beautiful colour. So do that, and do that together. In through the nose, and then pushing the breath out. Really focusing on that colour change. Now find your own rhythm for this. Just practice a couple of breaths. So now we're doing very mindful diaphragmatic breathing. There are various ways that you can extend this to deepen the practice. And one of the main ways would be to have a count and lengthen your count, and possibly to hold the breath just at the very end of the exhale just for a few moments. And these are things you can experiment with. As you listened to the music which is coming up next, I'd like you to really just allow the colour of the music to wash over you as well. Listen in particular to the lower lines. As we're lying on the floor, it's nice to hear the bass of the music and how supportive that is to the very free melody that goes above. And you can just relax now and breathe normally, or if you want to practice the diaphragmatic techniques and having another feel of the sensations in the abdomen, the diaphragm, the ribs. So this next few minutes is really for you to just explore where you might go with this practice, or just deeply relax.
you.